Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at naming for different functional groups. So we're going to be looking at all of these ones on the table, except for the one I've crossed out. You will need to know the functional group and how to name them. Okay. So if we start off with the top, carboxylic acid. So you can see we've got the functional group, carboxylic acid. The prefix is carboxy. So that's the start of the word. And then it ends in oleic acid. Right, so not that bottom one. It's just the top one. Okay. For all of these, that is the top one. So don't worry about that bottom suffix. And then an example here. Now this is a structural line diagram for a carboxylic acid. Now you'll see it drawn like this, but you'll also see different forms. We'll go through this in another video. But for now, just know that the suffix is oleic acid for carboxylic acids. An example of it is pentanoic acid. So we can look at the name and then we can imagine what that looks like. Pent means 5. So it means there's 5 carbons in the carbon chain. Now with this line diagram, we actually have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each point, or in the point where it changes directions, there's a carbon in those line diagrams. So this one's got 5, and that's pentanoic acid. And the functional group is that last part there. So the double bonded oxygen and the OH group on the end. That's the functional group. All right. Now, we can also, we're not going to go through each of these in depth, but we'll go through them all briefly, and then we'll go through some more examples of naming them in different videos. Okay. This is kind of an introduction to the different functional groups. All right. So I'm going to highlight the functional group for each of these. Now, we'll look at esters. Esters we'll go through in a lot more detail, but for the moment, functional group, suffix is the top one there. This is not the prefix, so that's actually incorrect. We'll go through the prefix in another one, but that's a good example of it there. All right, amide, suffix is amide. That is not the prefix. And then that's an example there. Okay, this is more just to be familiar with the different functional groups that you will find in upcoming videos. Okay, so the functional group can change depending on the class of the molecule. Okay, so all of these look very different with structural diagrams. Okay, so all of the ones I've highlighted here, you will need to know on the left. So the ketone functional group is that double bonded oxygen. Alcohol is the OH bonded to the carbon. Amines is the NH2 group. Alkenes is the double bond. So that 2 lines indicates double bonds. Alkyne, triple bond. All right, and alkyl, we don't need to worry about alkyl. Alkyl, that's actually an alkane. So instead of alkyl, we call them alkanes. Okay. And there was another one up here that was different. So the carboxylic ester, we just call them esters, okay? That's not the prefix either. Okay, we'll go through the prefix for esters another time. These ones don't really have they do have a prefix, but it's more for complex molecules. So I'm going to go through each of these individually. The and we'll talk a little bit more about what they mean. On the functional group for amides is the double bonded oxygen here, and then the NH2, the NH group. Okay. All right. So that'll do it for this video. We'll go through each of these in more detail in subsequent videos.